I was lying on the couch, the soft hum of the ceiling fan filling the quiet living room. My husband, Daniel, had been away for 3 days, off on a business trip to seal some big deal for his company. The house felt empty without him, too big, too silent. I missed the sound of his laughter, the way he'd hum off-key while making coffee in the morning. But more than that, I missed the warmth of his body next to mine, the way we'd tangle ourselves in the sheets night after night. I'm a woman who loves the closeness, the passion, the fire of those moments. It's not just a want for me, it's a need, a hunger that burns deep inside, and with Daniel gone, I felt restless, like a caged bird flapping against the bars. The clock on the wall ticked past 8 p.m. I sighed, flipping through channels on the TV, nothing catching my eye. My phone sat silent on the coffee table, and I stared at it, willing it to ring, to bring some life back into this lonely evening. And then, as if the universe heard my silent plea, it buzzed to life, the screen lighting up with a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the phone. Who could be calling this late? I picked it up, my heart giving a little jump as I pressed the answer button. Hello, I said, my voice soft, curious. Hey, it's me, Ryan. It came a deep, familiar voice, warm like honey dripping slow and sweet. Remember me? From high school? My breath caught in my throat. Ryan. My mind spun back to those days, classrooms filled with chatter, sneaking notes in the hallway, and Ryan, the quiet boy with the shy smile and bright eyes that always seemed to find mine across the room. We'd been friends, close for a time, sharing laughs over lunch and late-night study calls. But life had pulled us apart after graduation, college, jobs, my marriage to Daniel. I hadn't thought of Ryan in years, and now here he was, his voice pouring through the phone like a memory come to life. Ryan, I exclaimed, sitting up straight, a smile spreading across my face. Oh my gosh, how are you? How did you even get my number? He laughed, a low, easy sound that sent a shiver down my spine. I ran into Lisa from our old class a few weeks ago. She mentioned you, said you were still in town. I asked around, got your number. I hope that's okay. I was thinking about you, and I wanted to hear your voice. My cheeks warmed at his words. Thinking of me? After all these years? I leaned back, tucking my legs under me, the loneliness of the evening fading a little. It's more than okay, I said. It's so good to hear from you. What have you been up to? We talked for hours, the conversation flowing like a river, smooth and endless. He told me he'd become a chef, trained in culinary school, and now worked at a fancy restaurant downtown. I told him about my life, my job at the marketing firm, my marriage to Daniel, the little house we'd bought 2 years ago. But I didn't tell him how restless I felt, how the days without Daniel stretched long and empty, how my body ached for touch, for connection. Some things you don't say out loud, not even to an old friend. As the clock neared 10 p.m., Ryan's voice shifted, a playful edge creeping in. Hey, I have an idea. I'm not far from your place. I could come by, bring some food I cooked. I made this amazing pasta dish today, creamy garlic sauce, shrimp, a little spice. What do you say? A surprise visit from an old classmate? My heart raced. Come by. Here. Now. I glanced around the living room, tidy enough, but my mind wasn't on the state of the house. It was on the way his voice made me feel, the way it stirred something deep inside, something I hadn't felt in days. Daniel wouldn't be back for another 4 days. The house was so quiet, so lonely. And Ryan's offer sounded so tempting. Food, company, a break from this emptiness. I'd love that, I said before I could overthink it. You remember where I live? Lisa mentioned the neighborhood, he said. Text me your address. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up, my pulse pounding as I typed out my address and hit send. What was I doing? This was just a friendly visit, I told myself. Just an old classmate, a meal, a catch-up. But as I ran to the bathroom to check my reflection, smoothing my hair and dabbing on a little lip gloss, I felt a spark of excitement I couldn't ignore. I changed out of my baggy sweatshirt into a soft, fitted blouse and jeans, nothing too fancy, but enough to feel good about myself. The mirror showed a woman with bright eyes, flushed cheeks, and a smile that wouldn't quit. I was ready. The doorbell rang, and my stomach flipped. I opened the door, and there he was, Ryan, taller than I remembered, his dark hair slightly tousled, his eyes still that warm, piercing brown. He wore a simple black shirt and jeans, a canvas bag slung over one shoulder, and a grin that lit up the night. In his hands, he held a container, the faint smell of garlic and herbs drifting toward me. Surprise, he said, his voice soft but playful. I hope you're hungry. I laughed, stepping aside to let him in. Starving. Come in, come in. He stepped into the living room, his presence filling the space in a way that felt both new and familiar. We sat at the dining table, and he unpacked the bag, warm pasta in a creamy sauce, shrimp nestled in the noodles, a sprinkle of parsley on top, and a bottle of white wine he'd brought to pair with it. I cooked this today, he said, his eyes meeting mine. I wanted it to be special. It looks amazing, I said, my mouth watering as he served us both. We ate, the flavors bursting on my tongue, rich, savory, a hint of heat that made me hum in delight. Ryan, this is incredible. You're so talented. He smiled, a little shy, a little proud. Thanks. I love cooking for people who appreciate it. Seeing you enjoy it, it means a lot. We talked as we ate, the wine loosening our words, the laughter coming easier. He told me stories of culinary school, of late nights perfecting recipes, of the chaos of a busy kitchen. I told him about my life, the funny clients at work, the trips Daniel and I had taken. But as the night wore on, the air between us shifted. His gaze lingered on me a little longer, his hand brushed mine when he refilled my glass, and I felt that spark again, hotter now, a flame I couldn't ignore. When the plates were empty, we moved to the couch, the wine bottle half gone, our glasses still in hand. The silence stretched, not awkward, but heavy, charged with something unspoken. I looked at him, his face so close, his eyes searching mine. My heart pounded, my body alive with a need I'd been trying to bury since Daniel left. Ryan, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I'm glad you came tonight. He set his glass down, leaning closer, his hand resting on the couch near mine. Me too, he said, his voice low, warm. I've thought about you so much over the years. Wondered what you were like now, if you were still or you. I swallowed, my throat dry, my skin tingling. And what do you think? He smiled, slow and real. I think you're even better than I remembered. The space between us vanished. I don't know who moved first, maybe me, maybe him, but suddenly his lips were on mine, soft at first, then hungry, urgent. My hands found his shoulders, pulling him closer, the heat of him igniting something wild inside me. We kissed like we were making up for lost years, desperate and alive, my fingers tangling in his hair, his hands sliding down my back. I pulled back, breathless, my mind racing. Daniel. My husband. The man I loved, the man I'd promised to be faithful to. But Daniel wasn't here, and I was, and this feeling, this raw, electric connection, was so real, so powerful. I looked into Ryan's eyes, saw the desire there, the same hunger I felt, and I made a choice. Upstairs, ere I whispered, standing and taking his hand. He followed, no questions, no hesitation, his grip firm and warm. We climbed the stairs to my bedroom, the one I shared with Daniel, and I pushed the guilt down deep, locking it away. This was about me, about this moment, about the need that consumed me. In the soft, golden dimness of the bedroom, shadows danced across the walls as Ryan stepped closer, his presence commanding yet tender. He reached for me slowly, his hands finding the small of my back, pulling me against him in a way that made my breath catch. There was nothing hurried in the way he touched me, just confidence, warmth, and that unspoken electricity that had been building between us for so long. His fingers traced the curve of my spine with reverence, as if memorizing the feel of me. I tugged at his shirt, my hands brushing the fabric over his chest, feeling the strength beneath. He lifted his arms and let me peel it away, revealing a body shaped by labor and life, a man who didn't just exist but lived. His muscles moved with purpose, his skin warm beneath my palms. I reached up and kissed the hollow of his throat, breathing in his scent, earthy, masculine, real. He helped me with my blouse, and soon it joined his shirt on the floor, followed by my jeans, our clothes falling piece by piece like confessions we were no longer afraid to speak. There was no shame, no hesitation. Just raw need. We crashed into the bed, laughing breathlessly for a heartbeat before it was all lost in the tangle of sheets and skin. The coolness of the cotton met the heat of our bodies, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just us. No past, no future, only now. What happened next wasn't just physical. It was elemental. A collision of two souls that had been quietly calling to each other across lonely rooms and unsaid thoughts. His lips explored me with a mix of hunger and awe, as if he couldn't believe I was real. His hands knew when to be gentle and when to grip tighter, when to slow down and when to lose control. Ryan was nothing like Daniel. Where Daniel moved with predictability, carefulness, routine, Ryan was wildfire. He was unpredictable, thrilling, every movement of his body against mine a surprise. He didn't ask for permission with words. He asked with his eyes, his mouth, his fingertips. And my body answered with every moan, every arch, every cry that broke from my lips. It was a rhythm that rose and fell, slow like honey, then fast like a heartbeat on the edge of something dangerous. I let go, of fear, of duty, of everything I thought I was supposed to be, and I simply felt. And what I felt was alive. More alive than I had in years. Not just touched, but seen. Not just desired, but wanted. Completely. Desperately. When it was over, the silence wasn't awkward, it was sacred. We lay tangled in the wreckage of the moment, the sheets clinging to our damp skin, our bodies mold together like they belonged that way. My chest rose and fell, still catching up with what had just happened, and a smile crept across my lips, slow, stunned, satisfied. Ryan shifted beside me, propping himself up on one elbow, his skin glowing in the dim light. He looked down at me with something tender in his gaze, something that made my heart skip, not just lust, but warmth. Connection. Maybe even something more dangerous. His fingers traced lazy, looping patterns along my arm, the touch feather-light. That was, he began, then chuckled softly, shaking his head. I don't even know what to say. I turned to face him, my hair falling across the pillow. Me neither, I whispered, voice husky. It wasn't just good. It was unforgettable. He leaned in and kissed me again, slower this time, a kiss that promised more. More nights. More stolen hours. More of us. I'm glad I called, he murmured against my lips. I'm glad I didn't wait. So am I said, barely breathing. And I meant it. Even as guilt lurked in the back of my mind like a shadow, it couldn't touch the way Ryan made me feel. In his arms, I didn't feel like a wife or a woman with a secret. I felt like me, a woman who had finally remembered how to feel. As we lay there, hearts still racing in the quiet aftermath, I wasn't thinking about the consequences. I was thinking about him. About the next time. About how easily I'd say yes again. But then reality crept in. Daniel. My husband. The man who trusted me, who loved me. I glanced at the photo on the nightstand. Us on our wedding day, smiling, happy. Guilt twisted in my chest, sharp and cold, but I pushed it down again. I couldn't let it ruin this. I wouldn't let Daniel know. This was my secret, my moment, and I'd keep it locked away, safe from the life I'd built with him. Ryan stayed a little longer, holding me, talking softly about nothing and everything. He told me about a dish he wanted to cook for me next time, some fancy chicken with herbs and a sauce he perfected. I laughed, imagining it, already craving the next time we'd be together. When he finally left, the sky was dark, the stars bright outside my window. I hugged him at the door, the smell of his cologne lingering, the taste of his kiss still on my lips. Call me, I said, my voice soft but firm. I can't wait to see you again. He smiled, his eyes warm. I will. Promise. I watched him drive away, my heart a mix of joy and guilt, excitement and fear. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt alive with the memory of Ryan, of the food he'd cooked, the way he'd touched me, the way he'd made me feel. I climbed back into bed, the sheets still warm, the scent of him faint but there. I closed my eyes, replaying every moment, every touch, every word. The next morning, I woke to the sun streaming through the curtains, the guilt a little stronger in the light of day. I cleaned the bedroom, smoothed the sheets, washed the dishes from our meal, erasing every trace of Ryan. Daniel couldn't know. He wouldn't know. I'd be careful, I told myself. I'd keep this separate, a secret part of me that didn't touch the life I had with my husband. But as the day went on, my phone felt heavy in my hand, my fingers itching to text Ryan, to hear his voice again. I was a woman who loved the fire, the passion, and with Daniel gone so often, I couldn't deny the way Ryan filled that space. I didn't want to hurt Daniel, didn't want to break the vows I'd made, but this feeling, this wild, alive feeling, was too strong to ignore. Days passed, and Daniel called every night, his voice warm and steady, telling me about his meetings, asking about my day. I smiled, laughed, told him I missed him, and I did. I loved him, truly. But when I hung up, my thoughts drifted to Ryan, to the way he'd looked at me, the way he'd made me feel. I found myself checking my phone, hoping for a message, a call, anything. And then, 3 days before Daniel was due back, my phone buzzed again. Ryan's number. My heart leaped, a grin spreading across my face as I answered. Hey, beautiful, he said, his voice like a warm breeze. I can't stop thinking about you. I made this dessert, chocolate mousse, rich and smooth. Want me to bring it over? I bit my lip, my pulse racing. The house was quiet, the night stretching long and empty ahead of me. I knew I should say no, should stop this before it went further, but the memory of that night, the heat, the joy, was too strong. Yes, I said, my voice a whisper. "Come over." He arrived with a smile and a container of chocolate mousse, the kind of dessert that melted on your tongue, sweet and decadent. We ate it on the couch, laughing, feeding each other spoonfuls, the air between us growing warm again, charged with that same electric pull. When he kissed me, it was slow and deep, the taste of chocolate lingering, and I knew we'd end up in the bedroom again. We did, and it was just as good, just as real, maybe even better. He moved with a confidence that set my skin on fire, his hands knowing exactly where to touch, his whispers drawing me in deeper. We lay there afterward, the silence soft and warm, my body humming with satisfaction. I felt alive, wanted, in a way that was new and thrilling, and I couldn't deny it. I wanted more. Ryan came over again the next night, and the night after that, and again after that. What started as a single, stolen moment quickly became a ritual I both feared and craved. Each knock at the door set my heart pounding, not with dread, but anticipation. Each visit was a secret I folded carefully into the pages of my life, hidden between the lines of errands and calls to Daniel. I became good at lying, not with words, but with smiles, with silence, with carefully timed sighs. Ryan was never just a visitor. He brought warmth, chaos, and desire through the door with him. He didn't rush in like a man on a mission. No, he took his time, savoring each moment, and teaching me to do the same. He cooked for me like I was royalty. On Tuesday, it was seared steaks, resting in pepper sauce that tingled on my tongue. Wednesday came with a creamy mushroom soup, rich and velvety, served with fresh bread that steamed when broken open. Thursday, he made grilled salmon with lemon butter and roasted vegetables that melted in my mouth. I moaned over every bite, unable to decide which was more intoxicating, his food or the way he watched me eat it, eyes dark with hunger. He was a chef not just in the kitchen, but in life. Every move he made felt intentional, like he was crafting an experience for me, moment by moment. He fed me in every sense of the word, my stomach, my body, my starving soul. The way he looked at me, like I was the last woman on earth and he'd been searching for me in every face before mine, it undid me. He touched my cheek like it was made of glass, kissed my shoulders like they held answers, whispered my name like it was a prayer. In Ryan's world, I wasn't a wife sneaking around. I was his, a woman who was finally being seen. And I let myself be lost in him, lost in the way his arms wrapped around me as we curled on the couch, the soft flicker of candlelight painting golden shadows on the walls. Lost in the laughter that bubbled up between us as he told old stories from school, making me forget time and guilt for a little while. Lost in the warmth of his skin against mine, in the passionate storm we unleashed behind closed doors, in the silence afterward where we simply breathed together, hearts pounding in rhythm. But reality has sharp edges. And Daniel's return loomed ahead like a storm cloud slowly creeping into view. The thought of my husband, his smile, his steady hands, the way he always made me feel safe, twisted like a knife in my chest. I loved Daniel. I did. I loved the life we'd built, the memories we'd etched together like carvings on a tree, birthdays, laughter, lazy Sunday mornings. He was my foundation, my calm in the storm. But Ryan was the storm. He was fire and thunder and everything that made me feel alive in a way I hadn't remembered was possible. He woke something inside me that had long been sleeping, something wild and hungry. He didn't just make me feel beautiful, he made me feel wanted, adored, dangerous. I told myself I could handle it. That I could balance this dance, wife by day, lover by night. That I could hold onto the comforting, quiet love of my husband while secretly tasting the thrill of the man who knew me before I became someone's wife. I crafted lies as delicately as Ryan crafted his sauces, just enough to hide the scent of truth, just enough to keep the plates spinning. I promised myself it wouldn't go too far. I promised I'd stop. Eventually. But every time Ryan touched me, every time he cooked for me, every time he whispered my name against my neck, I knew this wasn't something I could control anymore. This wasn't just a secret. It was an addiction. And I was already too deep. The night before Daniel's return, Ryan came over one last time. He cooked a simple dish, roasted vegetables, tender chicken, a light sauce that danced on my tongue. We ate, we laughed, we kissed, and we ended up in bed, the hours slipping away in a haze of heat and connection. When he left, I held him at the door, my heart heavy and light all at once. "I'll call you," he said, his eyes searching mine. "Whenever you need me, I'm here." I nodded, my throat tight. "I can't wait," I whispered. He drove away, the sound of his engine fading into the silence of the night, leaving me standing there in the doorway with my arms wrapped tightly around myself. The air was cool against my skin, but it did nothing to quiet the fire burning beneath it. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions: guilt, longing, confusion, desire. I loved Daniel, or at least I thought I did, but Ryan had awakened something buried deep within me, something raw and untamed, something I hadn't even known was there until he touched it. I moved through the house like a ghost, my hands trembling as I scrubbed the kitchen counter where his fingers had once lingered, where he had cooked for me like no one ever had. I changed the sheets we had tangled in, washed the scent of him from the fabric, but I couldn't wash him from my memory. Every corner of the house held a whisper of what we'd done, and as much as I tried to erase it, part of me didn't want to. I wanted to hold on to it, to him, for just a little while longer. When Daniel came home the next day, I met him with a smile that stretched across my face like a mask. I kissed him softly, held him close, let him talk about work and dinner plans while I nodded and laughed at the right moments. I was the perfect wife, warm, attentive, loving. The kind of woman any man would be proud to come home to. And yet, deep inside, behind the smile and the sweet words, there was another version of me hiding. A woman who had tasted something forbidden and couldn't forget how it felt. A woman who craved the thrill, the danger, the passion Ryan had given me. His food had left more than a flavor on my tongue. It had left a hunger. His touch had gone beyond skin. It had reached my soul. With him, I had felt alive in a way that scared me. It wasn't just lust. It was something else. Something I couldn't name, but it had taken root inside me, growing stronger with every passing hour. And so, I waited. I waited for Daniel to leave again, for another trip, another excuse, another space and time where I could lose myself in Ryan's arms. I told myself I was still a good wife, still loyal in the ways that mattered. But at night, as I lay beside Daniel, my heart raced not for the man sleeping next to me, but for the one who had left his mark on my soul. The house was quiet. Too quiet. And in that silence, I smiled, a slow, secret smile meant for no one but myself. My eyes closed, and all I saw was Ryan. The warmth of his breath on my skin, the way he said my name like it meant something, the way his hands knew exactly where to go. It was wrong. God, it was so wrong. But it was mine. Mine alone. A secret world where I didn't have to be perfect. Where I could burn and ache and be consumed. And I couldn't wait to burn again.